I got a new mic! Woo! Today we're talking about Shadow of the Colossus. And, well, Shadow of the Colossus it's a relatively easy game. It's a 6 to 7 hour action adventure, not an RPG, just a regular action adventure, where you play as a guy named Wonder, as he wanders into the Forbidden Lands to resurrect a girl named Mono. And, well, that's pretty much it. As he enters the Forbidden Lands and places Mono on the shrine, he is then instructed by the gods to hunt down 16 Colossuses and defeat them, in hopes that his wish of reviving Mono. And that's it. That's your whole task. So you go on this magical journey. It's really not a magical journey. It's actually kind of a boring journey. And that's where I kind of have my mixed feelings about this game, because this game is good in theory and parts of this game are really good, but then there are just certain parts that are just absolutely mind-numbingly not boring but so tedious. That last boss fight, I swear to God, how would you even design something like that?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're.
This game doesn't give you much to work with. It's basically a wasteland map where there are no hundreds of enemies, where it's not a dungeon crawler where you're running through a bunch of enemies to get to your goal. You're just one man on a horse with a bow and a sword, and that's it. You're just running through this wasteland from objective to objective to objective, killing a bunch of Colossuses. But I do kind of have to admire how you get around. The actual way you traverse these lands is your sword is your waypoint. Your map literally doesn't give you anything other than where the Colossuses are after you've beat them. And that to me is actually pretty cool, because there is no waypoint indicator. There is no holding down the map. This game forces you to traverse and figure out where you're going and what's behind each path, and that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, the blue light is actually pretty cool, and as you're traversing, the light will change from a blue to a yellow indicating there's an objective around you, because as you're playing through the game, you'll notice on your side you don't have like an ammo bar or like an ammo counter. You literally just have your health bar and a stamina bar, and as you're traversing the world, and if it ever turns yellow, it's the indicator that there is either a shrine or a lizard's tongue around this general premise. That's basically the gist of what the world has to offer: shrines, lizard tongues, and just a bunch of Colossuses. Literally nothing else. There's not even like regular animals besides some falcons and birds like overhead, or like maybe seagulls, but there's literally nothing else in this world, and it kind of feels slightly boring. You might as well just make a bunch of fetch quests, because that's all you're basically doing at that point. But the fun part that we'll get into is the actual fighting of the Colossuses, because the Colossuses, they're not like your regular everyday boss battles where you run into a fight, like let's say Elden Ring, you defeat the boss and you're killing them and you're just dodging and weaving and figuring out the best way to angle yourself. This isn't that. This is none of that. I would compare this to more of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you get to the Colossus, or in Breath of the Wild's case, the Guardians, and you make your way onto the Colossus, and you find the different access points, and you traverse your way, you climb up, you hold on dear tight because these things will try and wave you off, and you're figuring out the right footholds, and you get to the glowing point, and then you stab it, you do some damage, the point goes away, you now have to find your way to the next location, and the sword even still comes into handy, because the same glowing blue light off your sword now will indicate where the exposed points are on the Colossus, so you don't have to truly figure out how you should be defeating it. You just have to find out where you have to go point A to point B again. But I guess that's like a lot of games, like point A to point B. But you make your way onto these Colossuses, you stab them a bunch of times, and then you bring them down. And then you get transported by the power of shadows back towards the shrine where the girl is. And that's it. Most Colossus don't take that long to defeat. Some of them are a little bit more annoying than others in that some of them don't require you to climb on top of them, but more figure out a way to destroy their army. Destroy their armor, because the Colossuses are basically giant structures come to life with rocks and moss and trees growing on them, and they're actually really cool and kind of cute to look at, if I dare say. But each Colossus, no two Colossuses will ever be defeated in the exact same way. If you're a speedrunner, maybe this is for you. Maybe as a speedrunner, you'll be down with seeing how fast you can defeat this Colossus, because there is a achievement for defeating the game in under 5 hours. So there's that for you if you truly want that. Graphics, the game graphics actually looks really good, and I did a little bit of like deep dive to figure out like what this game was and how this game was made to be. This game was created by Bluepoint Games. It was originally created by Japan Studios, and this game came out for the PlayStation. Yes, it was a PlayStation 2 title. It was supposed to be a multiplayer online experience named Eco, and I can now finally understand why the game feels slightly empty. It was supposed to be this massive multiplayer online experience, and I'm assuming somewhere along the line they had made all the bosses, and then when it finally came to development, everything fell through and they just decided to pivot over to making a single player title. But now they had all these bunch of assets on them. These are all just speculations. I don't really know what happened behind the scenes, but it feels as though this is why the game feels completely dead in. And for the graphics, it's really good. It's a remastering of a PlayStation 2 title, so the upscaling and the rendering looks very good. This game is very beautiful. And that's literally all it has going for it, because it feels so empty and dead. If they were to ever redo another remaster, I would really like them to update the movement controls, because there's two things in this game that really pissed me. First, we're going to talk about the horse, and second, we're going to talk about the climbing that you have to do in this game. Number one, the horse. They tried to make a very detailed, and I'll give them credit. I like this horse. It's kind of cool. It's not fun to use. And maybe I'm just not the type of person that likes drive cars or use horses in video games. But even something like Red Dead Redemption 2, like I loved riding the horses in that game. And in Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda, the horses in that game were superb. Minecraft has a better horse than this game. This horse, you have to use I was playing it where you had to use the triangle button to move the horse. I was playing this on PlayStation 5. You had to use the triangle button to move the horse. One click starts the horse up like an engine. 2 clicks gets the horse moving. 3 clicks, full sprint, and then you can just take your hand off, sometimes in hopes that the horse will just continue running in the direction that you want it to run in. The horse does have great tracking, where you can just leave it to run by itself and it will take you to the destination with minimal guidance. It's just when it gets hung up, this horse gets hung up. Edge of a cliff? No, we're not going to make that 2-foot jump. Why would I do that? Oh, but I can definitely make this 2-foot jump off of this rock, though. Like, make up your mind. Are you either gonna be good or are you gonna be really bad? Because there is a Colossus in this game where you have to ride on top of this horse. And when I say no, absolutely not. There are 3 Colossuses that I hate in this game, and that's number 1 of them, even though it was one of the coolest Colossuses in the game. It's because riding this horse is so frustrating. And then number 2, I don't know who decided that making undefined clear paths for climbing these Colossuses is a great idea. Because some Colossuses are fine. They're great. Clear, defined ways of making it up. And then you get to the parts of the Colossus where it's moving its arms, flailing its legs, it's bobbing its head up and down, and you're just holding on for dear life, not knowing which direction is up. Maybe it's just me being bad. Or maybe it's the fact that you have to manage your stamina bar, your climbing abilities, and holding on for dear life as you're being swung around. And that's it. Shadow of the Colossus, it's not a great game. Definitely not going in my top 20 list. We have to talk about this. We cannot not talk about this. There is no story. Besides Mono, Wanderer, and the horse running through this wasteland, finding all the Colossuses, defeating the Colossuses, there is no story along the way. You hear one voice telling you a bunch of riddles, which I'm assuming is the shadow creatures, telling you a bunch of riddles to find you your next location. Granted, some of these riddles are actually pretty good because it shows you how to defeat the Colossus. But the actual story is told to you at the very end in a 10-minute cutscene that you get minimal control to do anything, not even like a fight to the death, and then the game just ends. Like, the game just ends. This game is free through PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus, whichever you want to call it. So I wouldn't recommend paying for this game. Either wait for a deal or wait for it to go on sale, or play it on PlayStation Plus where you can get like a bunch of free games. This game only takes 6 to 7 hours to beat, but it really honestly takes 12 because you put it down so much to just figure out why you're doing this to yourself. And that's it. Thank you for being here today. Subscribe if you liked my content. Like to make sure YouTube knows to promote my content. And you know, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.